Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome all to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila. We are going to begin chapter 17, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his youth. Mukam karoti vacharam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. The 17th chapter, as summarized by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrit Pravaha Bhashya, describes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes from his 16th year until the time he accepted the renounced order of life. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has already vividly described these pastimes in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes them only briefly. Vivid descriptions of some portions of his pastimes are seen in this chapter, however, because Vrindavan Das Thakur has not elaborately described them. In this chapter, we shall find descriptions from the Mango Distribution Festival and Lord Chaitanya's discourses with Chankazi. Finally, the chapter shows that the same son of Mother Yashoda, Lord Krishna, tasted 4 transcendental mellows of devotional service in his form of Shachinandan, the son of Mother Shachi. To understand Srimati Radharani's ecstatic love for him, Lord Shri Krishna assumed the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The attitude of Srimati Radharani is considered the super excellent devotional mentality, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Krishna himself assumed the position of Srimati Radharani to taste her ecstatic situation. No one else could do this. When Shri Krishna assumed the form of the 4-armed Narayan, the gopis showed their respect, but they were not very interested in him. In the ecstatic love of the gopis, all worshipable forms but Krishna are rejected. Among all the gopis, Srimati Radharani has the highest ecstatic love. When Krishna in his form of Narayan saw Radharani, he could not keep his position as Narayan and again assumed the form of Krishna. The king of Brajbhumi is Nanda Maharaj, and the same person in Navadvip is Jagannath Mishra, the father of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, Mother Yashoda is the queen of Brajbhumi, and in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, she is Shachimata. Therefore, the son of Shachi is the son of Yashoda. Shri Nityananda occupies an ecstatic position of parental love in servitude and fraternal attraction. Shri Advaita Prabhu exhibits the ecstasy of both fraternity and servitude. All the Lord's other associates, situated in their original love, engage in the service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The same absolute truth who enjoys as Krishna, Shyamasundar, who plays his flute and dances with the gopis, sometimes takes birth in a Brahman family and plays the part of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, accepting the renounced order of life. It appears contradictory that the same Krishna accepted the ecstasy of the gopis, and of course this is very difficult for an ordinary person to understand. But if we accept the inconceivable energy of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, we can understand that everything is possible. There is no need of mundane arguments in this connection, because mundane arguments are meaningless in regard to inconceivable potency. At the end of the 17th chapter, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, following in the footsteps of Srila Vyasadeva, has summarized all the Adi Lila pastimes separately. So let's begin the last chapter of the Adi Lila. Verse 1. Vante swaradbhute ham tam chaitanyam yat prasadataha Yavanaha Sumanayanante Krishna Nama Prajal Pakaha. Taking to the chanting. Prajal Pakaha means taking to the chanting. Let me offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy even unclean Yavans become perfectly well-bred gentlemen by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Such is the power of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport: there is a persistent misunderstanding between caste Brahmins and advanced Vaishnavas or Goswamis, because caste Brahmins or Smartas are of the opinion that one cannot become a Brahmin unless he changes his body. As we have discussed several times, it is to be understood that by the supremely powerful potency of the Lord, as described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, everything is possible. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is as fully independent as Krishna, therefore no one can interfere with his activities. If he wants, by his mercy, he can convert even a Yavan or an unclean follower of non-Vedic principles into a perfectly well-behaved gentleman. This is actually happening in our propagation of the Krishna consciousness movement. The members of the present Krishna consciousness movement were not born in India, nor do they belong to the Vedic culture, but within the short time of 4 or 5 years, they have become such wonderful devotees simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, that even in India they are well received as perfectly well-behaved Vaishnavas wherever they go. Although less intelligent men cannot understand it, it is the special power of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, the body of a Krishna conscious person changes in many ways. Even in the United States, when our devotees chant on the street, American ladies and gentlemen inquire from them whether they are actually Americans, because no one could expect Americans to become such nice devotees all of a sudden. Even Christian priests are greatly surprised that all these boys from Jewish and Christian families have joined this Krishna consciousness movement. Before joining, they were never regarded any principles of religion seriously, but now they have become sincere devotees of the Lord everywhere people express this astonishment. And we take great pride in the transcendental behavior of our students. Such wonders are possible, however, only by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They are not ordinary or mundane. The second text or the verse: Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda Prabhu, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Verse number 3. Kashora Lilar Sutra Karila Ganan Yovan Lilar Sutra Kari Anukraman. I have already given a synopsis of the Kashor Lila of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now let me enumerate his youthful pastimes in chronological order. Text 4. Vidya Saundarya Sadvesha Sambhog Nritya Kirtanay Prema Nama Pradanaishcha Gauro Divyati Yovane. Exhibiting his scholarship, beauty and fine dress, Lord Chaitanya danced and chanted as he distributed the holy name of the Lord to awaken dormant love of Krishna. Thus Lord Sri Gaura Sundar shone in his youthful pastimes. Verse number 5. Yovan Praveshe Angera Anga Vibhushan Divya Vastra Divya Vesha Malya Chandan. As he entered his youth, the Lord decorated himself with ornaments, dressed himself in fine cloth, garlanded himself with flowers, and speared himself with the sandalwood. Verse 6. Vidyara Odhaite Kaho na kare ganan sakal pandita jini kare adhyapan. By dint of pride in his education, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not caring for anyone else, defeated all kinds of learned scholars while executing his studies. Verse 7. Vayu Vyadhi Chale Kaila Prem Prakash Bhakta Gana Lana Kare Vivid Vilas. In his youth, the Lord exhibited his ecstatic love of Krishna on the plea of disturbances of the bodily airs. Accompanied by his confidential devotees, he enjoyed various pastimes in this way. Purport: according to Ayurvedic treatment, the entire physiological system is conducted by 3 elements, namely Vayu, Pitta and Kapha, air, bile and mucus. Secretions within the body transform into other secretions like blood, urine, and stool. But if there are disturbances in the metabolism, the secretions turn into kapha, the mucus, by the influence of air within the body. According to Ayurvedic system, the secretion of bile and formation of mucus disturb the air circulating within our body. 59 varieties of diseases may occur. One such disease is craziness. On the plea of disturbance of the bodily air and metabolism, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu acted as if crazy. Thus, in his school, he began to explain the grammar of verbs through Krishna consciousness. Explaining everything in grammar in relationship to Krishna, the Lord induced his students to refrain from worldly education, for it is better to become Krishna conscious and in this way attain the highest perfectional platform of education. On these grounds, Sri Jiva Goswami later compiled the grammar entitled Hari Namamrita Vyakarana. People in general consider such explanations crazy. Therefore, the Lord's purpose in his attitude of craziness was to explain that there is nothing within our experience but Krishna consciousness, for everything may be dovetailed with Krishna consciousness. These pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have been very vividly described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Lila, chapter 1. Verse number 8. Tabeta Karila Prabhu Gayate Gaman Ishwar Purira Sange Thathai Milan. Thereafter the Lord went to Gaya, where he met Srila Ishwar Puri. Purport: Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Gaya to offer respectful oblations to his forefathers. This process is called Pindadan. In Vedic society, after the death of a relative, especially one's father or mother, one must go to Gaya and there offer oblations to the lotus feet of the Lord Vishnu. Therefore, hundreds and thousands of men gather in Gaya daily to offer such oblations or shraddh. Following this principle, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also went there to offer pind to his dead father. Fortunately, he met Ishwar Puri there. Text 9. Diksha Anantare Haila Premera Prakash Deshe Agavana Punaha Premera Vilas. In Gaya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was initiated by Ishwar Puri, and immediately afterwards he exhibited signs of love of Godhead. He again displayed such symptoms after returning home. Purport: when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Gaya accompanied by many of his disciples, he became sick on the way. He had such a high fever, and he asked the students to bring water that had washed the feet of Brahmanas, and when they brought it, the Lord drank it and was cured. Therefore, everyone should respect the position of a Brahman as indicated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Neither the Lord nor his follower displayed any disrespect to Brahmanas. The followers of the Lord must be prepared to offer Brahmanas all due respect. But preachers of Lord Chaitanya cult object if someone presents themselves as Brahmana without having the necessary qualifications. The followers of Lord Chaitanya cannot blindly accept that everyone born in a Brahman family is a Brahmana. Therefore, one should not indiscriminately follow the Lord's example of showing respect to Brahmanas by drinking water that has washed their feet. Gradually, the Brahmana families have become degraded because of the contamination of Kali Yuga. Thus, they misguide people by exploiting their sentiments. Verse number 10. Shachike Premadan Tabe Advaita Milan Advaita Paila Vishwarupa Darshana. Thereafter the Lord delivered love of Krishna to his mother, Shachi Devi, nullifying her offense at the feet of Advaita Acharya. Thus there was a meeting with Advaita Acharya, who later had a vision of Lord's universal form. Purport: one day Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sitting on the throne of Vishnu in the house of Shiva's Prabhu, and in a mood of his own he said, "My mother has offended the lotus feet of Advaita Acharya. Unless she nullifies this offense at the lotus feet of Vaishnava, it will not be possible for her to achieve love of Krishna." Hearing this, all the devotees went to bring Advaitacharya there. While coming to see the Lord, Advaitacharya was glorifying the characteristics of Mother Shachi Devi, and thus upon arriving he fell down on the ground in ecstasy. Then, under the instructions of Lord Chaitanya, Shachi Devi took advantage of his situation and to touch Advaitacharya's lotus feet. Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu was very much pleased by his mother's action, and he said, "Now my mother's offense at the lotus feet of Advaitacharya has been rectified, and she may have love of Krishna without difficulty." By this time, Lord Chaitanya taught everyone that although one may be very much well advanced in Krishna consciousness, if one offends the lotus feet of Vaishnav, his advancement will not bear the fruit. We should therefore be very cautious not to offend a Vaishnav. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita has described such an offense as follows: Yadi Vaishnav aparadh uthe hati mata upade vachinde tar sukhi yaya pata. As a mad elephant may trample all the plants in a garden, so by committing one's offense at the lotus feet of Vaishnav, one may spoil all the devotional service he has accumulated in his life. After this incident, one day Advaitacharya Prabhu requested Chaitanya Mahāprabhu to display the universal form. He had very kindly shown Arjun. Lord Chaitanya agreed to this proposal, and Advaitacharya was fortunate enough to see the universal form of the Lord. So we will continue our reading from the 11th verse of the 17th chapter next time. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.